and welcome to Radio Free Nintendo. It's May 18th, 2023, and this is episode 8. Oh boy.
23?
23, yes.
Damn, I'm good.
23, 823. This is episode 823. 823, 823. This is not me saying 823 a bunch of times so I can edit it into the audio before I send it to Guillaume. Or then it just sounds like everybody's agreeing with me when I said 823. That's right, 823. Because I don't remember how I
turning
into it.
Homer at the end of the sexual harassment episode. Sweet can.
Listen, the problem is I don't remember how I entered into the sentence, so I have to give myself lots of options to get out of it. Not that I'm doing that when I say 823. 823 or 823. I'm your host, James Jones. We're joined today by Mr. John Lindemann.
It's great to be here, James.
It's great to have you, John. Mr. Guillaume Vayette.
Hello.
Mr. Greg Lee.
Yeah. Ahoy, everyone.
Did you have more to add, Guillaume?
No, I just was going to say 23. I don't know why.
Oh, yeah, I mean, maybe that's the 823 we'll use in the audio. Who can say? So,
now I'm thinking about the Radioactive Man episode. Seamless, sir. You're fired. With good reason.
So, gentlemen, what do you want to talk about?
Monster Hunter.
I don't know.
No. Okay. John, what'd you say?
Monster Hunter. Of course.
Nice.
Okay.
I'm always up for hearing more about Monster Hunter. Go ahead.
Wow, that was passive aggressive.
I just don't think it's really well-worn territory at this point, Still relatively fresh.
Maybe I just need a lot of pyro behind me before I say that phrase to really get the point across. Yeah, so I guess this is the episode where we're going to talk about, it's the only time it's going to happen. This is an episode where we're going to talk a good amount about The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. It came out, for Greg's it actually came out before we recorded last week. For us, it came out during recording, as you might have heard at the end of the episode when John Lindemann gets called out for playing it during the episode.
I didn't play it, I just loaded it up. There's a big difference.
Stared longingly at it.
I played it later. I was just curious to see when it unlocked.
Is that some real, did not inhale energy from John there?
I told myself I could play it for 30 minutes before I went to bed because I had work the next day. 3.5 hours later when I went to bed.
I'm playing a saxophone with sunglasses right now, Greg. I want you to know that.
You're going to make some people nostalgic. The good old days.
Yeah, the good old days.
I'm just gonna go ahead and note to myself, John Lindemann is Mac Tonight is the opening episode title, and we're good to go.
Mm-hmm. Back Tonight or Bill Clinton.
Well, the good news, but see, Bill Clinton's hard for me to Photoshop. Mac Tonight is very easy. I just need to wrap your face around a crescent moon, and I'm good to go.
It's Mac Tonight. Come on, make it Mac Tonight.
There we go.
Don't think I've forgotten about Mac Tonight either. Anthropomorphic moons are my jam.
It's actually a robot. There's one that still works in like a McDonald's somewhere.
That's awesome.
It is kind of awesome.
That's a pilgrimage.
There we go.
Right there.
That's the episode 850 special. We're gonna record it at the Mac Tonight robot. Yeah. Speaking of robots. See? I got it. Tears of the Kingdom. So I'm just going to go around. I know, Guillaume, you got it later than the rest of us.
Yeah, I just got it a couple of days ago.
Okay.
Basically, we were waiting for my birthday, and then Karen was like, well, do you want it earlier? And I was like, yes. And then she was like, well, I don't have it yet.
Do you want it earlier? Too bad.
Yeah, but then, got it a couple of days ago, but I'm like 4 shrines into it. I just... went up my first tower thing, so it's not... I'm very, very early.
Okay.
You guys had a full weekend more than I have had, so yeah. I'm not super surprised that you'd be much farther.
I'm at 65 shrines.
Yeah.
I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm early too. I kind of bounced off of it a little bit.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, I bounced off of it a bit, into the safe confines of Monster Hunter, which just
you were actually being serious. You wanted to talk about Monster Hunter, okay.
Partially, but I'm going to go back. No, I'm going back to Zelda this weekend. So I just haven't played it much this week.
Yeah, and it's funny because I had started Majora's Mask 3D. I had talked about how I was playing it and enjoying it. I'm really enjoying it, which is kind of
it's
sad
a good
because
game.
It is a really good game, but the really disastrous first experience with the disc that came on the GameCube that had a version that would crash.
Yeah, it's a bad version of that game.
That's a really bad mix.
And that just even like when we played it for the retroactive, like I was always kind of a little bit annoyed by the way that the saves worked, and the owl statues didn't actually save it. Like the save would self-destruct when you loaded it up. So
gadget style.
Yeah, so this version is so much better just because the owl statues actually save. You can go back to a previous save if you mess something up. So it's not a rewind feature, but it might as well be. So finally, like I'm free to enjoy this game without feeling like I'm going to waste hours upon hours doing a thing and then messing up.
I get where they were coming from with it, because the idea was that because you can go back in time, you just try it until you get it right. And for the majority of the quests, that's not a big deal. But for the Lover's Mask quest, which is long, it has many steps, and you have to hit them all.
You kind of have to do it twice, from what I've seen. Almost. Like there are two different paths that you can take, and
there's stuff that you have. I mean, ultimately, you're doing it all, but it is. You basically have to run through the beginning of it twice and then do different stuff.
Right.
But that's the one where, because there's so many steps and you have to be in the right place at the right time, and if you haven't played the game before, you won't know where that place in time is for a lot of times. A lot of times you just have to kind of discover it. You'll get hints, but it does make that part feel very trial and error-y, and because you have to basically go through most of the 3-day cycle in order to complete the run, it's not like ones where you can just kind of jump time, do the part you need to do, get it right, jump time again, do the part you need to do, get the prize. There's a lot of stuff you have to do in that quest, so you can't jump around as much. It's my understanding that they nerfed the backwards Song of Time a little bit in this version.
Yeah, I think that it's from what I've seen. I think it's Meowth on the Discord says that in the original version you go at 1/3 the speed when you do the backwards song, and in this version, it's half the speed, so it's slightly faster. But I don't really mind, and in fact, like, it might actually be a good thing when you do slow down time and you don't want to take forever shooting at aliens or ghosts or something like that. Like it being a little bit faster is not too bad, but it is maybe a little bit more stressful when you're doing the dungeons. But yeah, still, like, I'm really enjoying it. I'm now in the Great Bay area, so I'm not quite at the spot where I stopped playing when we did the retroactive, but the difference here is that I'm actually really enjoying playing the game, and it's kind of sad because I had the same reaction as John. Like, it was kind of a little bit put off by the beginning of Tears of the Kingdom, and I was like, actually, like, shouldn't I just keep playing Majora's Mask? But now I'm a little bit further. Like, initially, I kind of felt like I was making no progress in Tears of the Kingdom. I really struggled to find the village. Actually, Lookout
Springs.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so that kind of messed me up because But finally, I got the parasail, or whatever they call it, and that should help a lot. Paraglider, right?
Yeah, I actually. Well, let's before I dig in, Greg, how much time have you put in? How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly how much time. I kind of didn't really have the chance to put in a good, like, sustained chunk the way I did with the Xenoblade DLC. over that weekend, so it's kind of hasn't been the service. That was a rare thing. That was a nice alignment that happened there. But with this, it's more a case of just like keep putting in little bits here there. So it's kind of affected what I've done and how I've played. Like, so I've just mostly been kind of finding any shrine I can see and tracking it down and doing it. Kind of, so some of the more kind of, like main quest lines and stuff. I've crossed paths with that. I've made some progress, but not a great deal. But so I'm at like 61 shrines done. But wow. I've only got 40 Koroks, which seems like way out of proportion to me based on the last game. Anyway, based on Breath of the Wild. I mean, Breath of the Wild, there were 108, I want to say, shrines in total? Yeah. Now, there may be more in this one.
I'm fairly confident there's more.
But it still feels like I've done a lot of shrines, and yet, like I said, with the Koroks, which are everywhere. Like, what was it, like 900 of those in Breath of the Wild?
Something nuts like that.
You can't lift a rock without finding one.
Yeah, it's just, I guess the thing is with the shrines is that, generally speaking, there are exceptions to this, but they are like literally lit up. And right. It's been just a case, one over there, right, mark it, let's go, get that one. Oh, there's another one, all right, let's go. And the thing about this that's a little bit different from Breath of the Wild, especially once you kind of get going, is that, there's a lot less like, this area is like completely, soaked in the calamity goo. I mean, there's some of that with this gloom thing, right. But like, it's a lot less of like, this area is virtually, closed off to you because there's guardians everywhere and there's the goo and there's like, it's so, I guess some of it's because it's like, well, if you've played Breath of the Wild, you've been to this world before, you've seen the main kind of, the main surface world before. So it feels more like, it's like, no, you really is even more open to you quickly than it was in Breath of the Wild. Especially if you get to a tower and, the big boost that gives you and then just gliding somewhere. And just, you can see these shrines lit up below you and say, okay, let's do those. I've been mostly investing in stamina so I can sail further, and to climb higher and all that kind of stuff. So it's been lots and lots of shrines, which I have enjoyed. I've really enjoyed the shrines for the most part so far. And just, I've kind of done one of the kind of main regional quests, I guess they kind of refer to it as the regional phenomena that Pura gives you to investigate. I've essentially closed off one of those.
So you've actually done more than me in the main progress stuff, because I'm only in the 50s in the shrines category, although I was running around with 16 uncashed in at one point. Because we talked about this. I play these games and I go off on expeditions, and I'm not even running the plot. I'm basically just exploring. And I was just accumulating, and I just didn't go to a town to cash them in. I just never had the opportunity. And so I got way out there, but I actually had a problem early on. So again, if you haven't been starting the game, you don't want to hear anything, just stop. Like, this is it for the week. Come back next week.
Yeah, the thing with Breath of the Wild and this, with the non-linear nature of it and everything else, like it's kind of like everything's a spoiler, nothing's a spoiler. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, definitely there's, things that are more sensitive than others, but I think
it's hard to tell what they are sometimes.
The biggest thing that Breath of the Wild did for Zelda, in departing from what had become a very kind of, well-worn formula and structure of the 3D games up to that. There were departures, like Majora's Mask that we already mentioned, but
Skyward Sword was kind of a departure.
In some ways. But what it did, it renewed the series sense of discovery. Right, that was the biggest thing that it did.
It OD'd on it. I mean,
it went so hard on it as well. So that's the thing, is like, just little things are discoveries in that game, and it is like a little bit of a kind of spoiler when you talk about them, but at the same time, like, it's not necessarily some huge deal or something, so it's like, yeah, it's harder to kind of do the usual, like, okay, this rises to kind of spoiler type level and this doesn't, with this game, because even little things kind of, you know, that's part of the kind of joy of the game. And obviously with this now, Tears of the Kingdom, being so heavily based on Breath of the Wild, I think one of the challenges it had is like, well, it's going to be tough to recreate that sense of renewed discovery because, you know, not only is the style and structure very similar, but, you know, a big part of the world is the same. So, like, you know, it is a kind of, I wondered about that coming into the game. How well was it going to be able to do it? But I'd say, at least to this point in the game, with some of the new stuff and just, you know, the new powers and things like that, there's still a pretty similar sensation going on.
Yeah, so I could talk about that a little bit because this is how I was going. So with that being said, after you get off what is the Great Plateau analog in this one, which is one of the Sky Islands, the game lets you free dive. And they're basically just telling you aim for the water. Well, I, being myself, decided that big lake's not the one they want me to hit. That smaller one over there is. And so I aimed for it. Which actually it's really hard to get there and not slam into the ground. But I did it. And
are we sure that's not the sense in which John bounced off this game?
I mean,
did you just hit the ground?
No. I bounced off the game. My stopping point was where you have to, where you pretty much open up the tower that shows you, I guess, the map stuff.
So I got there.
That's the next thing I got to do.
I got there on day 3 of playing this game. Keep in mind, day 1 was Thursday, so I played for a few hours. Day 2 was Friday. I probably played for like 7 hours that day.
Mm-hmm. But does that mean that you played this whole time without the paraglider?
I sure fucking did! But it's even worse. I did it in the far east of Hyrule, you know, the mountain region, without the paraglider. I got all the way to the top of some really tall mountains, including like the big waterfall behind the Zora domain.
Yeah.
Without the paraglider or any upgrades.
It's a strange choice to me that that isn't given, because it was in the plateau.
It's
right?
the first thing you get before you leave.
Yeah, the King of Hyrule basically is giving it to you and all that. So it was a little bit odd, you know, to me that I wasn't given it straight away. But then I was like, okay, well, you know, I assume there's some reason for that or whatever. And so I was like, again, because I was kind of like playing it in these little bits, I was kind of like, well, maybe I'll save trying to do some big run at like the main quests for when I've got a bit more of a sustained period to play it, right? So I'm doing these bits and bobs that I could do, and I'm not finding the paraglider. And then eventually I did like a quest. I don't think it was the first quest I was kind of given, but they did it. And then like a character basically just straight out assumes you have it. I'm like, okay, I've done something wrong here. Like,
yeah,
I don't know
this game does let you just walk into oblivion.
So I was kind of dumbfounded by how hard the game was, because I did a quest after I landed, and somebody gave me a piece of cloth and said, hey, so we're going back in. There's a few quests I've run into now where I get a piece of cloth, and the outcome is like, hey, you can go take this to Hateno Village, and they'll reskin your paraglider. I read that wrong and thought they said you could take this to Hateno Village and get a paraglider.
Yeah, build it or something like that, right?
Well, so I'm in Lineru, and if you don't remember the geography of Breath of the Wild, Hateno's kind of far away from there, but not super far, but there's mountains in the way. There's a road. Well, that road's fucked up because, as Greg talked about, they've changed the world because the Sky Islands have been falling. And there's been stuff emerging from the ground. Well, the road's a non-starter, so I had to try to go around it. And I ended up in Terrytown, which, if you'll recall, is in the far north, which is the exact opposite direction. So after about 10 hours of trying to get to Hateno Village to get my fucking paraglider, I get there and realize the person was saying, oh, I can reskin it. And I'm like, where the fuck is it? So I go to the science lab, which is down there. and I read the sign on the door. And it says, we're in. And I'm like, where the fuck is Outlook? And so I just start going back. It's like, I've only gotten like 5 shrines at this point because the shrines up there are much more hidden. In games, areas of the game that are, quote, later area, the shrines aren't as obvious. And so I'm like, I don't have any shrines. I don't have anything. I'm just cold. I'm wearing the original clothes you have at the start of the game because I don't have any money.
So you didn't even have the. See, I got the cold boots early on, and
I had nothing.
That is ridiculous because it was such a pain in the ass for me until I got those cold boots, and I'm like, oh my god! Because the thing is, I didn't have them, and I was up near the one shrine like before you even dropped down. And this is one of the things that, Greg talked about, the paraglider, like, kind of wondering where you got it. Well, there's the one part up there when you go up into the cold part of the first area, whatever the plateau is. And there's the one, I think it's the third shrine that you have to get to where you got to walk all the way up and around to go up to the very top of the kind of mountain. And up there, they have those kind of wings that you can pick up. And they look like you can, and clearly, I mean, in some of the screenshots that I've seen, you can ride on those. And so I'm sitting there, I'm like,
it's very Great Goblin.
And I'm like, am I missing something here? Should I be able to build like something out of these? And so eventually I just gave up and I said, well, I guess I can't do anything with those right now because they have like the footprints on them where it looks like you can stand and do something and you have a couple of batteries. Maybe you could charge with that. I was just confused and I'm like, okay, I guess there's nothing for me to do here. So,
it
right.
is.
I put a fan on one and I just waited for it to take off and it never worked.
I did the same thing and I'm like, okay, this isn't working.
Yeah,
I put 2 on both sides and tried to make it float, and that didn't work either.
Yeah.
You got to overcome the friction. So later you get tools for doing that, but the game does eventually start telegraphing, like, put it here, there's less friction.
Well, and the shrines have, like, there's a bunch of shrines that are, like, combat tutorials. I mean, I think pretty much any of them...
I missed all of those!
Pretty much all the ones that are combat-based are tutorials, like, because I think...
Yes.
I've not played Breath of the Wild to any significant degree, since probably 2018. So my command on the details of that game is not that great at this point. But I think, there were analogous shrines in Breath of the Wild, but there were also combat shrines that were just there, like, it was just a challenge, right? Just, beat a tough enemy, a tough, like, guardian type thing.
There were a lot of them, yeah.
Yeah. Now, I haven't come across any of those yet. The only combat leverage ones have been kind of tutorial, quite explicit tutorial, it's telling
very
you
nuanced.
There are control prompts, and that's, all the others have been more puzzle driven. But even the puzzle driven ones, they almost have a little bit of a tutorial element in them because it's much more reduced form, right? Everything's pared down of just like, look, here are the materials in this shrine. So a
lot of times they... Oh, go ahead.
Okay, I have to make something out of these that works to solve this kind of problem because that's all there is. You know what I mean? Like in the overworld, there's things you can bring with you. Maybe there's something you're missing. In a shrine, everything's just kind of passed down. So it's just like, okay, this is a kind of problem I can solve with these parts. And then you can take that knowledge to the overworld and solve problems like, doing crazy taxi with Koroks up there, down there, depending on your point of view.
It's time to make some crazy money. So the funny thing is, I was like, God damn, finding shrines is hard. And when I finally came down so my Link was coming down from the mountains at the start of the game into blue and black Bokoblin camps. With nothing. With no equipment, no nothing. Looking like a fucking ragged man of the mountain wearing torn clothes. Literally having climbed over every mountain because he can't glide between them. Exhausted, ragged, fighting with a goddamn stick.
I mean, you're way ahead of the curve because you're already doing like the no equipment run.
I was fucking torching these camps with just like a stick, and I'm like, why is this game so fucking hard? And then I got down into the the plains, like the Hyrule plains, the main part of the area where they wanted you to go.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh my god, there's shrines everywhere. There's fucking shrines everywhere. Jesus, what? There's what's over there? There's some over there. There's some over there. It's like, whoa, overwhelmed. The game's gotten a lot easier after that, by the way.
Yeah, sure. I
was like me, like
just a little microcosm of that, what you were describing, but yeah, it didn't last nearly as long. Like, yeah, once I got the sail and, you know, kind of started, you know, going around, it really started to speed up. And
my breaking point was I at first went to one of those towers and didn't know how to work it. And I was like, okay, I'm going to do the story stuff. I'm going to follow the story stuff because this is not going to be enjoyable if I can't even get the map. So yeah, I'm surprised. Like I don't know, you didn't do any of the shrines like, or like warp back to maybe like the sky to then try again, like to fall from the sky and reach
I thought that, so when I landed at the lake, I did a little quest. It was a very easy quest. I got a piece of fabric, and they're like, oh, you can go to Hateno for this. I thought that was the game telegraphing me where to go. And the problem is getting there's actually kind of a pain so I went to Lurelane Village before I reached
I don't think I've even been there yet. But to be fair, I only recently went to Hateno and Kakariko. Which I mean, especially like Kakariko, like you shepherded there really quite early in Breath of the Wild,
right?
You know, so it's kind of a little bit of a different sequence, but
getting there is not easy if you're not equipped for it either. So like it's there, but so that's one of the things that we and you mentioned it. Like we were curious how they're going to make this world different, and the answer is it's really messed up. Like geographically, yes, it is. So. The calamity of the first game, it's been 100 years. Things have settled down. There's obviously still ruins everywhere. Like the Colosseum ruins is a big one. But functionally, people have effectively rebuilt their life. Yes, Ganon is a problem and there are monsters, but it's kind of a managed problem from their perspective.
Yeah, they have like the monster crew or whatever to go out and kill monsters.
In this game, things are much less settled because the calamity just happened.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's not clear how long Link was out of commission, but it wasn't 100 years. Let's put it that way. So, because there are people who are still children who knew them. Of course, now, like as they talk to people in this game, it's like how old do people live in this world? Because Purah's like 100 something.
Yeah.
Oh, it was. They did got something about reversing aging, like they talk about with her. Like, so yeah, something weird.
Isn't she like 200 years old or something like that?
So she was a child in the first game because she had reversed her age too much. In this one, she's an adult, and so when I saw her, I went, oh no, they made Purah hot. Damn it, they're trying to waifu this obnoxious monster.
Mm-hmm.
Then I remembered, actually, no, this design showed up in the Musou game.
Age of Calamity.
Yeah. So there's all kinds of like weird stuff that they did to the world, to the geography of the world. So they're just like, hey, this bridge that you crossed a lot of times in Breath of the Wild, it's fucked. It's gone.
Yeah, that's definitely, just you get these big, sort of angular chunks of the sky ruins and just plonk down into things. And sometimes it's like making something harder to traverse than it naturally might have been in Breath of the Wild. Other times it's actually, making it easier because they're doing things like sticking them into chunks of mountainside. Whereas, guess what? This angular thing that fell from the sky that's jutting out, that's perfect for using your ascend ability to, skip up half the cliff face, So, it's kind of taking with one hand and giving back with the other, remixing. So that, is kind of a crucial thing. But I think in general, it's just kind of, at least, compared to my memories of playing Breath of the Wild for the first time, you're just kind of covering bigger distances more quickly, more easily, because the sky stuff is so, kind of important in this. And I think that just the weird journeys that it's taken me on, I think is the funniest thing, which kind of can be summed up by the fact that, like, say, all right, there's, I've gone so far out on the horse. Right, okay, so it's like I've following a road, gone somewhere, and then it's okay, now it's time to kind of get off the horse and maybe go up and find one of those shrines that I'd identified from the sky. And so you do that, and then maybe you see something else over there, and then, okay, let's go towards that, and then all of a sudden, you see one of those bits of ruin fall to the floor, and you're like, well, if I were to ride that back up using the rewind ability, well, then I could get a much better view, or maybe skip this or glide over to this, and then you just keep seeing things like that, and then it just goes from one to the next, and then all of a sudden you're all the way up in the sky, you're doing something there, you're fighting the mini boss from the first level of Gunstar Heroes for some reason, and then you kind of ultimately you kind of come back down to earth, find some other shrine, do it, and you bring the map up, and you can see the icon of where your horse is, and it's like, I've gone like halfway across the entire world just doing just whatever takes my fancy, whatever catches the eye, and that's the beauty of it. I mean, it's still, I guess because it's still kind of post-apocalyptic from the first game, and now we've got a fresh, half-apocalypse that's happened, just before this game. It's still, kind of empty and ruined in spots, but they do a good job of having these things at least early on. It's going to be harder now, having done as many shrines as I've done. I'm sure it's, I'm just not going to see as many. As you said, James, there are more tucked away ones, that you got to look for at a certain point. But to this point, it's been impressive to me how many sort of things they give you to just kind of lead you on a string, you can get involved with without even, it's been really nice for me when it's like, I don't know how much I'm going to be able to accomplish because I might have to put this down in, 10 minutes. You just kind of get in this kind of addictive little loop of just see something, go somewhere, accomplish something with the shrine, or, something or other, and then you kind of just see the next thing, and the cycle begins anew.
I haven't done any of the main, the four main affected areas. I haven't even been out into the desert because every time I go, something fucked up happens, and not a little bit fucked up, massive. What the hell's happening? Oh Jesus, levels of fucked up. One time I fought a very important character in a fight that I didn't want to have, and it just turned into I'm going to run now. But the other one is the underground, which, again, this is one of those things, how much do we want to talk about it? I've spent a tremendous amount of time down there. My first trip down there, which is an early tutorial quest that I saw at hour 15, they mean for you to see it hour 4. I was down there for, I'm going to guess, an entire day's worth of play session. I just didn't come back up. I just kept working down there. And I just kept exploring and moving, because it goes back to that weird little itch I have in my brain about, because I'd see oh, there's something in the distance over there. But the underground is dark. It's really, really dark.
No, it was kind of funny that, because again, you need the glider to go down there, right? It is absolutely essential, because it is such a long fall to go into one of those sinkholes that you will die at the bottom. It's right. To me, it keeps being evocative of Gandalf falling with the Balrog, except the Balrog's not there. But it's very much Nintendo likes that. They ripped it off for a Samus versus Ridley fight in Metroid Prime 3, if I remember correctly. But I guess that's retro.
My second trip into the underground was following a dragon.
Oh, I know! When you're in the sky and you just, wait a minute, is that coming out of one of those holes or going back in? What is going on?
I was chasing it through a valley, trying to get up to catch it, and then it suddenly peeled off in another direction, and I saw it go down, and I'm like, the fuck you are? And I followed down after it, because I was going to fight it. And I did hit it, but it does the same thing it does in Breath of the Wild. I'll leave it at that.
I did. So the one time I was actually close enough to the dragon to think, okay, can I get on the back of this thing, or what can I do? And it's like I got close, and it's like the temperature gauge just goes, and you start catching fire just by being near it. All right, now.
Oh, mine was cold, so like it was basically almost insta freeze. It was, oh man, I still hit that bastard. I hit that bastard with a sword. Did it accomplish anything? No, but I did it. I spent so much time in the underground because it's like a mirror image of, and in fact, it is a mirror image in a lot of ways. It's like a weird mirror image of the above ground. And so that plus the darkness, the mystery of the darkness down there. And there are lots of really good rewards down there. They're hard to get to, and that area is really scary because there's lots of mean things in it, and it's dark, and you can't see them coming.
Well, I think one of the first things that really freaked me out, it hadn't happened that many times since, but it was like I couldn't have been far from the lookout village, which is the central hub, basically, the lookout landing. It's kind of nice to have such an explicit hub, to be honest, like where just everything kind of happens, you can go and get cash in your shrine rewards at a Hylia statue. Mm-hmm. You can expand your inventory, your equipment slots for.
Is that where that fucker is?
Well, he is there at some point. But
I found him once and have never seen him again.
Yes, I think I'm not sure. I didn't sort of verify this thoroughly enough, but it seemed like that triggered because of I did a quest that kind of like then he shows up there because I was getting kind of like I'd done all these shrines. But my equipment was really still, I've
got like 80 fucking seeds.
I've like got 4. Like I said, I didn't have that many Korok seeds, but certainly enough to expand my slots by quite a few. And I was still stuck with like 4 slots for shields or whatever.
Yeah, sucks.
It was kind of getting annoying, but then I did finally get around to advancing one of the kind of more main quests, and it's like, it seemed to me anyway, it could have been something else I did, because I'm not to the same extent as you, but I'm not like warping back to the hub all the time. So It could be a few different things, I guess. But it seemed like, okay, now I've done that, he's there, and I can just like expand it whenever I feel like it, and I've got the seeds to do it.
He took 2 from me and fucked off, and I'm like, dude, I've got like 70 more. Get back here.
On the basis of like kind of what one of the rewards I got for doing that part of one of the main quests, and if it did indeed make him show up sooner, I really do kind of wish I'd done it quicker. But like I said, it was just one of these things where just didn't feel like I was ready to kind of more lock in, maybe get the headphones on and really play for a prolonged period until then. So it's just kind of the way it went. But yeah, it probably would have made some of the journeying I'd done, and some of the various chests I'd opened where it's like, do I want to keep this shield or that shield, or screw it. It would have been better because I would have been doing it with more equipment slots and stuff. But that's the way it worked out. It's still kind of fun.
You were mentioning a scary incident near the outlook.
Really early on.
I suspect I know what this is.
What is that? What is that?
Is it the hand?
Yeah,
I'll leave it at that.
It's terrifying.
Did you defeat it? Did you fight it?
No, I just ran the fuck away.
It doesn't. So I fought it so there's more than one of those. I ran into one in a cave system. So I ran away from that one because I only had 4 hearts. I found another one in a cave because I was spelunking. I do a lot of that when I encounter them, and I could not get away from it. So I fought it. And I'll let you all find out what happens when you kill it. Nothing good.
Really?
Like, don't think that turns like, aha, I'm the winner. No. Yeah. Things went from bad to worse. Let's put it that way. So yeah, that thing's legitimately terrifying. I have a I have a lot of gear now because I've just been exploring and finding stuff. And I have gear that helps me deal with the gloom. I have a lot of gear that helps me deal with the gloom.
I think I need a few more pickups before I can unlock some of that. Like I said, I've not spent as much time underground as you have. I did find the progression kind of interesting from the point of view that, like, you're in the first area in the sky, and you're in some kind of undercover areas, and it's so dark that you have to use the seeds to kind of produce light. So, that's surely going to come back later on, naturally, when I get down to the surface and below the surface. And then, the first so many caves I found, I'm like, it's suspiciously light in these caves. Like, what was the point?
And there's a ton of those seeds in those caves.
It's just like, well, no, the kind of, it's a bit of an oxymoron, but the surface caves are, for you to find those seeds, and you don't need to light your way. Where you actually use them is the underworld, where, it is very, very dark and very unsafe. So you really need to know what you're treading in at any given moment. And, I've sort of made a bit of progress with, some of the stuff that they're kind of telling you to do down there. But, I think I'm kind of picked a lot of the low-hanging fruit when it comes to shrines. Like, that might now be one of the main kind of things for me to attack.
Yeah. Because there is an analog down there of those. And I've mapped, it's kind of a hybrid of those and the tower. And I've mapped about between a third and a half of the underground at this point. And not all of it's connected. So there are spots, there are impassable areas. Like, you have to go back up and come down somewhere else. I've mapped pretty much all of the big central area and a lot of the northeastern area. And then there was one that I dropped down, and it's just a little island. That's it. It's the whole thing. And there's a nasty combat trial there. And the good news is you can go in and out of it. And I just basically just had this long, stupid fight with the monsters down there until I cleared it. And it gave me a piece of equipment that is good for fighting gloom. So now I've got a bunch of gloom equipment. So that's really helpful down there. But also, being down there is really upsetting and oppressive after a while. Because it's just, even in the dark, when I've got over 300 light seeds. I've got 50 of the big ones. I'm good. But it's still really hard to move around down there. There's enemies that pop up all the time. Gloom damage is still real, even with my gloom resistance gear. And it's like, okay, I hate this. I'm not having a good time right now. And I have to follow these really narrow paths of safety to get to where I want to go. And then when you get there, stuff happens. There is a story plot that seems to be progressing in the underground, and based on what the characters are saying, I'm about 3/4 of the way through it. So I'm making pretty good progress down there. So that might be the first area plot I clear. But Underground's another place where they're trying to teach you how to use the artifacts. Because there's artifacts everywhere. These were mines.
Yeah, they're very well stocked with devices.
Yeah, so like I built a device that let me just drive over gloom. And that's it. Like, it doesn't hurt me anymore. I just drive right over it. Now, I've got, because of you also can collect a lot of Zonite down there. I've got over 500 of the refined Zonite.
Oh, wow.
The current, and I have not spent it yet because I haven't gone back to the sky, that part of the sky, to buy the thing. So I've still only got like the most basic battery.
I haven't got enough to cash in the battery. I've been back there to see, how, but I haven't got enough.
This game is just like ADD poison.
There is a kind of a refinery or whatever right behind the lookout thing. Like it's just outside the walls. Yeah, you can just go there.
No, I said it's very much a hub, and I think it seems like it's just the more stuff you do, the more things are going to actually repopulate in that hub as well. Like it's only going to get more useful as you progress through the quests, I think.
For the refinery, no. You don't have to go to the hub. But then so when you buy the refined, so really what you do, those are really just stores. You trade the regular Zonite for refined Zonite. And then to spend it, the person who will take refined Zonite and give you stuff is up in the sky in that main hub area. So I just need to go up there to buy the battery upgrades. But I think I've got enough for like 5 upgrades, and I haven't done any of them because I was just down there for a really long time accumulating. And I mean, I came out that first trip with like 400, and then I went down and got another 100 some. It's just it's being down there is really. If you're playing the game and you haven't spent time down there, do it because there is stuff to see down there. Just be prepared. Go down there. If you it just you're gonna die. Just accept that and keep going. Like there's gonna be dumb shit that happens down there.
Yeah, I mean, I'm used to that at this point.
Yeah.
Dying all over the place.
That area is particularly prone to dumb shit happened because you couldn't see that the fact you're about to walk off a cliff.
It is somewhat reminiscent of like the way you're having to kind of like the way you're kind of inching your way forward, and like for me, a lot of the time I'm throwing the seeds down because I've not got that many arrows to be like just spending them willy nilly on every time I want to put a light seed down. So kind of inching my way, throwing the seeds, you're creating this little sort of area that you can see that's kind of safe, and then, kind of rinse and repeat. It does remind me of being in the Dark World in Metroid Prime 2 quite a lot, actually, even though it's different because, with that, it's kind of, if you're just not standing in one of those like crystal bubbles, it's poison at first until you get like better suits later on. So it's not that extreme, but there is a lot of stuff that will hurt you down there. The gloom in particular, that you need to know that you won't be standing in it, which means you have to put the seeds down and stuff. So it's definitely evocative of that, and suitably enough, it's certainly very dark.
Yeah, It is very difficult down there, and if you spend time down there for a long time, it kind of weighs on you. And I think that's their intention, because like you said, you're constantly inching forward. There's always this stress of like, what dumb shit am I about to put my foot in? And that's turned into like attacks from unexpected angles. That's like Zonite creatures attacking me. Just everything that can go wrong has. And so in a way, I've just sort of gotten used to bullshit happening, and I just don't care. I'm just like, yeah, sure. Of course, I just stepped into a middle of, I won't get into what you're fighting, what the plot thread is down there, but I've stepped into a trap that's been set for me. It's like, yeah, of course. No, why wouldn't that happen? I'm going to have a big dumb fight in the dark. I love this. I'm having a good time. And so, yeah, that's kind of where my time has gone, though. It's, it's gone like how standing up and using the tower to get up into the sky and immediately trying to assess, okay, where can I get to? In the Sky Islands, and then trying to figure out how can I build a path to get from this island to that one over there that I don't see any other way to get to. Like, I can't use the tower to get there. It's too far away. There must be a way to do it. How do I do it? And that's actually really rewarding. Although in the Sky Islands, you can really see reused assets. There's one particular configuration where there's like a wheel with like 4 spokes coming out, or when Link turns the wheel by pushing on it, the island turns and there's like a launcher on it. Yeah,
where you can launch it. So, no, there's definitely some bits that are, different.
Even the stairwell into that central hub is copy-pasted in like 3 places so far. It's like, okay.
It kind of reminds me again of another Metroid Prime memory. Like Metroid Prime's pretty famous for like having remarkably kind of unique rooms. Considering the kind of game that it is. But in Metroid Prime 3 in the Sky Town, like that was the one place that had a bunch of stuff that was like, oh yeah, this is the same as some other room. So I don't know why duplication is acceptable if it's way above the surface of a planet or a land, but for some reason it is when it comes to Nintendo, apparently.
I'm sure someone has deep lore reasons for it.
Oh, the deepest.
I did find it interesting that we're now dealing with So, and I guess just because we made the deep lore joke, I'll make it now. So, Breath of the Wild talks about a calamity 10,000 years ago, from its standpoint. So 10,100 years ago.
Yeah, which already seemed like it might be like that point, 10,000 years ago, seemed like if it related to the other Zeldas at all.
Probably far back.
It was like way in the future of other Zelda games because they had crazy technology 10,000 years ago.
Right. The Sheikah had this technology that they don't have anymore. Now, the idea that there's an ethnic identity that lasted 10,000 years alone is unbelievable, but sure. But now there's apparently a calamity before that is beyond the living memory of the people who were around 10,000 years ago, who had even more sophisticated technology, which means that they're on a technology backslide in this world that is unprecedented. Like, the most rudimentary version of society is the one that they currently occupy, where Purah is creating her, like, the only indication of any Sheikah technology at this point is, like, Purah's weird fanfiction technology that she's building, that has, like, it has, like, the weird veiny look that all the Sheikah stuff has, the stuff that she's building, but everything else doesn't look anything like that. So we're saying two distinct societies beyond the living memory of each other, both created hundreds of shrines and just fucking dropped them on the planet and said, "We did it, boys."
The thing is, Zelda games generally, like, it is funny because obviously, you know, when you're in very early stages, you know, you kind of have to invent a backstory, I guess.
Right.
You know, and it's just kind of fantasy kind of tropes about, you know, all this stuff of long ago when, you know, magic was real, or in this case, sort of high tech was real, or stuff, and then, you know, it's been dormant, or it's been seemingly gone for however long, and then it comes back. Like, you know, it's just very standard, you know, kind of fantasy stuff. But what's interesting about Zelda, of course, is at this point, like, there are enough games that, you know, the older games could serve as, you know, the kind of mythic backstory, which is, obviously, we just got done talking about this with Wind Waker, which is what they did. You know, Ocarina of Time was part of the mythic backstory to Wind Waker. Obviously, there's more, like, well, how did everything get flooded and all this kind of stuff, but, you know, the basis of it is Ocarina of Time. But what's interesting as time goes on is that they still feel the need to, like, no, we don't just want to do that a lot of the time. We need new backstory for pretty much everything. Even something like Twilight Princess, which is very obviously patterned on Ocarina of Time, to say the least, is still like, oh no, but we've got this whole new mythic backstory for the Twilight Realm, right? We got to learn about that. We got to learn, you know, how it may or may not have something to do with Majora's Mask. You know, the tribe that made Majora's Mask or whatever, Midna, Zant, and how that factored into Hyrule. All that. We've got all this stuff, right? And then Skyward Sword, it's like, well, we're going the farthest back we've ever been, and we've got, you know, it's actually, you know, there was an evil demon king before Ganon, and you know, he kind of is Ganon, it turns out, and all this kind of stuff. So it's funny when it's like, okay, we've got a direct sequel, one of the most direct sequels they've ever done, right? It's the same Link, same Zelda, same world, basically, all that, but still, no, we've got to invent this whole new backstory that goes even farther back, just as James says, and even more high tech and all that. It's just kind of, you know, it's a bit silly, really. It's
really crossing the point where it's like, okay, look, there are now 3 societies that lived in the sky in this canon. Like, first off, that's insane. Secondly, wait, so that means if this is the progenitor, this puts it all the way back beyond Skyward Sword, which is supposed to be like in the hyper back.
Yeah, that was meant to be Genesis, basically, other than, you know, the Ocarina of Time, you know, kind of depiction of the literal creation of the world, where, you know, the goddesses come and, like, invent matter, or whatever. Like,
and then just say, yeah, we did it.
That's the beginning, but after that, it's like Skyward Sword, right? Well, this is like either before or like immediately after or something, or just, the real answer is,
it doesn't matter.
That was the kind of always the kind of
it doesn't matter. That's the real answer.
It was always the kind of thing that kind of tickled me about them deciding to do the Hyrule Historia and trying to actually get this thing down. Like, it's like, you won't stick to this. There's no, and they haven't. I think, to be fair, even like, I'm not sure, because I've not checked the details on this and I've not played this game for very long, but like, one of the first games that came out after Hyrule Historia was Link Between Worlds, and I think that, like, somewhat pissed on it, like, straight away. But now they're just like, they are throwing it out the window.
I can't wait for when they announce the DLC to this game and they're like, actually, the Zonite knew about a tribe even further back in time that's even higher in the sky.
They're in space.
That's right. They're just floating around up there.
Finally, Zelda goes to space. We've been waiting for it. And
100,000 years before their time, there was another species that ran around on this planet. Like, just keep going. Just, like, fuck off. Like, I want a T-Rex species. It's like T-Rex, but with the Triforce logo on it. Like,
the real point of it all is that it just seems like a way that they can at once, be a direct sequel. Because, again, talked about this last week, nearly 30, or maybe they got past it, I can't remember, or maybe they will, with a little bump in sales that this will probably create, 30 million copies of Breath of the Wild. It's like, okay, we must have it be a direct sequel to that. Like, this is totally rarefied air. This is the sales nothing like we've ever seen with the Zelda series before. So it must be a sequel to that. But at the same time, it's kind of like you want to, do a lot of the same things. You want to like kind of, it's got to be a follow up in terms of the plot, but equally it's like, well, we need another new technology, a discovery of an old technology that's kind of new to this world. And we need another time where it's like, let's play essentially the sort of cutscenes are things that are discoverable in the world that happened long ago, but you're kind of seeing them as glimpses. Like, they're just finding a way to hit the same beats as that did because it was ridiculously successful and they want to recapture that. And so, it's one of these areas like, well, we do want to follow it up, but equally we just kind of want to hit the same things again.
I like that there's no evidence of the Sheikah anywhere in the landscape anymore. Like, they fucking purged. Because there's 109 shrines that are just gone. There's the ruins of the Divine Beast. Now we got rid of those. There's all the towers that were there. Now we built new towers.
Well,
These towers are better towers.
They sort of built like things around the towers to obscure their Sheikah-ness.
It's like, why are you all covering this up? What's the deal? It's very weird. Like, it would make some sense if they tried to, like, put continuity there and were like, well, the Sheikah were actually aware of this society and we're trying to recreate their technology or something. Like, just get like, a one throwaway line would have fixed this. But they're like, nah, it's just gone. We just wiped it out. Somebody came through and cleaned it all up and put it in a trash heap. It's done. Problem solved. We even dug those shrines out and everything. Gone. Like, they actually put thought into explaining Link's consistent depowerment, because you start the game and he's mega powerful.
Oh, yeah, it's one of the people used to go on about, poor Samus, what happens to her. This is one of the hardest Samusings that any character's ever had.
Right.
Like, this is,
you see extreme. All the hearts go away and then they just strip him naked again.
Yep.
And they
you're
take
not
his
even
arm.
going to keep the clothes.
Yeah, I mean, I was walking around shirtless forever.
Yeah.
I was like, all right, I guess this is the way it is now. It's just caveman time.
To be fair, I'm currently walking around looking like someone in a Rammstein video, that mining gear. Like, it's a little bit bondagey, I'm gonna say. But it's the best bit of gear I've got, and it glows in the dark, so, I'm just gonna have to go with it.
I've got.
Oh, you meant
in
the game. Okay.
No, he's not.
Exactly.
So I'm wearing the Hylian gear that you can buy in Hateno now that I have money, and it's also upgraded, like a lot upgraded at this point. So it's basically armor, even though it's just like kind of ugly tartan clothes. It's like it's fine, hit me, I can take it. But yeah, I've got like pieces. So it's interesting how they do gear in this game. There's a series of like things on the map where they've marked like, hey, there's a legend of gear here, and then there are map pieces that you can get for the underground where you get the map telling you where they are in the sky. It's very Wind Waker-y. Like, hey, you find this chest, it puts a marker on your map, you go to that place, and then you search for it.
And they did something a little bit similar to Skyward Sword, didn't they? Where it's like, okay, there was a chest on the surface, and you would kind of do something, and it would like... It kind of gave you a marker for where to find it in the sky then, or something, if I remember correctly. So it was again like two different tiers of the world, and you kind of activate in one, and then you go and find it in the other. And you got a little bit of that with those X marks the spot thing on your map.
I've got so many of those I have to hunt down. It's absurd. I wish they gave you more markers, though. Like, I'm out of markers all the time because I'm just constantly seeing, and my ADD, this game is just absolute fuel for my ADD. So it's like, I see a thing, I start doing a thing, I run into a person, they want to do something, and I'm like, I know you are Yiga. I don't give a shit. What scary cave do you want to take me to for what's definitely not an ambush? I'll follow this person around for 10 minutes. They're like, we just got to keep going. We're almost there. And I'm like, I'm sure we are. I'm just sitting there sharpening a sword. Yep. I'm sure we're almost there. We're almost there, buddy. We're going to find this problem. We're going to take care of it together, aren't we? Oh, no, I'm going to put you in a fucking coffin. And then we get there, and sure enough, I deal with them. And then I leave. But then I'm like, oh, shit, what was I doing? Fuck. There's a shrine on the surface of the planet that you have to solve in a maze that unlocks another shrine in the sky in another maze. And I keep telling myself, go back there and do it because I bet it's cool. And I just never remember to do it. I've been trying to do that for the last 10 hours. It's like, okay, I need to go up there and do it. Nope. I forgot. Shit. All right, well, I'll do it. I'll do it today. And then it's, nope. You spent 20 minutes trying to figure out how to build a boat so you could get these fucking musicians across a river.
Oh, yeah. I've had a few of those.
God.
Yeah.
Like that.
That was the last one of those I did, the kind of, the Great Fairy sort of quests. Yeah, that was the last one I did of those.
I'm through 3 of those, and I'm on my way to the 4th one. It's weird. Like it's interesting that like the tower stuff, the fact that towers, Guillaume touches, the towers just aren't active when you first get to them, unless you go straight there. So like I climbed the tower thinking I must need to get to the top.
Yeah, I did that, and it was like yeah, and that's when I decided like I gotta activate this. This is not normal, and
this isn't right.
Yeah.
I have liked that the towers all have their own little challenge, though.
Like, yeah, that's right. They've each got like. What is it about each? So presumably some of the ones closest to Lookout Landing are kind of just there, and you can pretty much walk up to them, and activate it. But once you kind of get a bit further afield. Yeah, there's usually some sort of gimmick, right? Something's wrong, and it'll be like, oh, there's a cave nearby, and you kind of find something in there, and then it can be activated, or, there's a weather problem, or, these sorts of things. So I've got most of them. I've got like 3, I think, left to activate of those in the corners of the map. The southern corners. But yeah, it was just, it's definitely different from, like I said, it feels like a sort of expedited version of doing it in Breath of the Wild. That felt a lot more like, the hard, like, manual climb up there sometimes with a bunch of calamity crap, like, all covering it that you gotta deal with beforehand. And, kind of, it felt like a heavier lift to, kind of map the environment in that, but it kind of makes sense that it should be an expedited version of it now, because there's more of a world. There's the world in the sky, the world below, and for a lot of people, considering that did sell 30 million copies, we've already done it once. It should happen faster, and it does.
Right.
So I'm pretty happy with that.
Yeah, I like it. It is. I do like that they seem to care about some of these characters in like a really particular way. Like their behavior is consistent between the two games. The fact that Purah's decided the way to fix the towers is to turn them into a giant experiment where she launches people into the sky, and they'll probably be fine. Feels very on brand for a person who turned herself into a child because, I don't know, reasons. And is consistently trying to experiment on Link. Like it does feel like these characters actually matter to them in a way that maybe they haven't in previous. Like characters always felt kind of disposable in previous Zelda games.
I think it's some of you, presumably because of the response to Breath of the Wild. I think maybe there's a feeling that the audience cares about the characters more than maybe sometimes has been the case with other Zelda games, whether that's accurate or not. I think I think a lot of it just has to do with the sales, really.
I wonder if voicing these characters also made them feel more alive to people. Because
I think so. I think so. Absolutely. And it actually kind of caught me off guard. I was like, wow, this is not really what I'm used to.
Yeah. Like I went to Breath of the Wild and I know these characters' voices, and I played Age of Calamity and I heard their voices again. But it is weird, like, just hearing Zelda characters talk, like, and again, Purah's the example, because her voice actress is really good at giving this, like, I don't really care what happens to you. We're going to try this experiment, though. It'll be cool, probably. Energy to everything. It's like an almost flippancy, but also an excitement. It's like, ramifications. What are those? I've never heard of that. Let's shoot you 9,000 feet into the air. I'm sure it'll be fine. That I think makes them feel more real, like less just like
there's a depth there that you really can't get across with just dialogue and printed text alone, right?
Yeah, it's their voice, and literally and figuratively, and so I think that might make those characters more affable to the player and more identifiable, and people can connect to them and then want to continue to connect to them. So I think you might be right. It might be because the people were there. I mean, it's Breath of the Wild sold about 30 million units. Tears of the Kingdom, Nintendo. So Seren and I were chatting back and forth when the review embargo broke on Tears of the Kingdom. Trying to speculate what day Nintendo would release here are the sales PR.
What day the spiking of the football would take place.
Yeah, exactly. So like, there was a debate of would they wait till Monday or would they drop it on Sunday? We were both wrong. I think they dropped it on Tuesday. But it was 10 million units, over 10 million units in the first 3 days. Now, granted, a lot of those are pre-sales.
Oh, yeah.
The majority of those are pre-sales. But that's a third of Breath of the Wild's lifetime sales in 3 days.
Yeah, of course, you're talking about, a situation where the Switch install base is enormous today. It's
right.
over 100 and some odd million, right, at this point. Versus, Breath of the Wild was ground zero. In fact, Breath of the Wild was outselling the Switch, as we've often recounted at one point, because people could actually get a hold of Breath of the Wild, whereas the system was harder to get a hold of for a time there. But it's still impressive. I mean, it kind of, you see it, some of these sort of ridiculously fast kind of, openings that latter day Switch games have had. It's like, well, Scarlet and Violet hasn't caught up to Sword and Shield yet, but it sold faster because it had more Switch owners to sell to, when that started. Obviously this is much more drastic because you're talking about a 6-year gap rather than 3. So it'll be interesting to see how it goes in that respect. But obviously, it's reviewed incredibly well, and the sales are off to a very, very fast start again. I think the thing about with Pokemon is, it's got this long history of ridiculous sales, right? But with Zelda, it's got so much history behind it. It's got, a lot of incredibly very well sort of celebrated games, legendary games in terms of the history of the medium, really, in a lot of cases. And yet, Tears of the Kingdom could come along and outsell basically any of them except Breath of the Wild in 3 days. It could just eclipse them like that. With Pokemon games, that's a lot harder to do because a bunch of the generation sold ridiculous big numbers.
So somebody posted on Twitter the shipment data for the series up to this point. I think every game in the series, and they stacked games that are on multiple systems. And one of the things I thought was really funny is I'm looking at this bar chart, and everything is kind of bouncing around 5 million. Some are a little bit above, some are a little bit below, some are not insignificantly below. But that's kind of the number.
Yeah, I think for the record, was it like, because we were talking about this in terms of the relative popularity of Ocarina of Time and Wind Waker. Like Ocarina of Time was higher at 7 some odd million.
Yeah, it was like 7 and 8,
whereas Wind Waker was kind of just below 5 million, I believe. But really, that drop was kind of pretty commensurate with the drop in install base that the GameCube, experience from N64 from, like 30 million to 20 million. So it still had pretty much the same attach rate. The only thing is on GameCube, you had like stuff like Smash Brothers Melee, which really outperformed in terms of the attach rate. Like basically, I think 1 in 3 GameCube owners had Melee. It was ridiculous.
So I remember us talking about it. Not at the time, because we weren't the show at that point. We talked about it. We talked about Spirit Tracks. How Phantom Hourglass was renowned for like breathing life back into the series, especially in Japan. Even though it sold less than Twilight Princess. Do you by chance know how many copies this like series reviving game sold?
Yeah, it definitely wasn't among the really big sellers on DS, because there were some monster sellers on DS again, because, the DS basically has the biggest install base of anything along with PS2, right? So, it had this huge install base, but, I don't think it was one of the really big ones. So, it's not in double digits. I'm quite confident of that.
Phantom Hourglass sold slightly less lifetime than half of what Tears of the Kingdom sold in its first 3 days.
Yeah, see, there you go, isn't it? I mean, it's, what's really terrifying about stuff like that, and I don't mean this as any disrespect to the series, because I like it quite a lot, but, Luigi's Mansion 3 is in double digits on Switch. You know what I mean? I mean, who would believe that was possible? It just goes, the Switch has been so... we talk about hardware sales a lot, and kind of naturally enough, and they are massive. But it's the software sales that are just incredible about Switch. That's where the numbers they put up. You look at it just some of these series are just doing things that have never been done before for those series. And ones that were already hugely popular. Like Mario Kart 8. It's just taking it to new extremes. It's, Mario Kart Wii did 30 million. We'll do 50. You know what I mean? It's insane.
Yeah. So I think if you take Tears of the Kingdom and Breath of the Wild, you're rapidly approaching the entire rest of the series. That's stupid.
That is really, really stupid. I mean, I had to laugh because on launch night, I always like doing this with a release like this, just kind of like for anecdotal evidence of its popularity. Is how many friends, because I have a whole bunch of friends on my Switch.
Oh my god!
And I think I had about 26 people online at one point, and I think 25 of them were playing Tears of the Kingdom.
It was just constant popping up. So-and-so, Tears of the Kingdom. So-and-so, Tears of the Kingdom. People I haven't seen online in literally years were popping up playing it. Yep. It's like, oh my god. It's absurd. Like, you just like, nope, there it is again. There it is again. Yep, there it is. There it is at the end. There's more people playing Tears. Yep, there's another one. Mm-hmm. It's wild. Like, it's It's this is legitimately probably the biggest game Nintendo's had since Breath of the Wild, which is wild because they've released 2 mainline Pokemon since then.
Well, I mean, you're talking about Animal Crossing doing what, 40 million?
Yeah,
I mean,
I don't mean necessarily in sales. I mean in terms of
that's another example of like Animal Crossing was popular before the Switch,
right?
40 million. Yeah. It's just software sales have gone to a whole other place, which is was interesting because some of those series, not necessarily so much Zelda, but the ones that we identified as more portable. Kind of associate games like an Animal Crossing or Pokemon, like, will they sell for $60 though? And it's like, they will. And Tears of the Kingdom selling for 70 and selling very, very well indeed.
I wonder, and like as the transitioning to digital, Nintendo is getting more and more of this money.
Well, and of course they also they sucked me in with their the $100 coupon deal.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, same. So, when do you think we get the DLC announcement? Here's my guess. I'm guessing next financial briefing, which is a ways out.
Yeah, because we haven't long had the last one.
Right. I'm thinking they're going to tell investors like, "Hey, we've sold 20 million. Let's say 15, because I guess it's going to be hyper front loaded. Because obviously you couldn't preload Breath of the Wild because you didn't have a Switch.
No, exactly. I mean, I get you probably you could if you had it on Wii U. I'm gonna guess maybe, but yeah.
So let's say 15. Let's say they're at 15 by the time the next they're gonna have to announce. And look, we know Nintendo will announce DLC way before it's ready. I'm looking at you, Xenoblade.
Yeah, they kind of there's a bit of go back and forth on this kind of stuff. I mean, you think about the old days where they had to be dragged kicking and screaming to the idea of DLC at all. So look, we ship things that are finished, okay? We do not want to give anybody the idea that this is, we're slicing, cuts off the top to sell you separately to squeeze more money, or that it's stuff that we didn't finish, Assassin's Creed 2 quite famously had some sequences of just, oh no, we can't access those memories in the whatever that device is called that you experience the things in.
Yes.
And it's just like, yeah, we couldn't finish the game, but we could sell it to you as DLC later. They didn't want any part of that. But once they did get dragged to it eventually, because it's just too profitable to ignore, and it's brought us a lot of really cool stuff over the years, frankly. Now it's kind of like, well, in some cases they're really quite upfront about it and quite rapid, and in other cases it seems like it's more like of a way to revive things, to get spin them back up once they've lost a bit of momentum. So it seems like it's a bit of a case by case basis how they space those things out.
Yeah, I just think the investors are going to ask. They're going to want to know, like, when is the DLC for this coming out? Because we want to even if it stopped at 10 million, like they might be they would definitely be disappointed. I would imagine it would still have been a major financial success. But you remonetize on the DLC, or maybe that's the DLC they announced to push the expansion pack again. And now you get the DLC for Tears of the Kingdom or whatever. Just something to keep people, giving them money. That's the goal. That's the mission. But they succeeded this time. Anybody else want to mention anything? Like, I know we're all still fairly early in the game.
Well, I guess just something that's a relatively kind of fundamental aspect, really, is just like the build-in stuff and, the Ultra Hand, ability and how that's gone in terms of like, okay, they demonstrated it for us a little bit on the video with Numa and stuff. But the big question for me is going to be like, well, how practical does this feel? When you're doing it yourself, like, and how fiddly is it, and how much are you going to enjoy, like, doing it repeatedly, stuff like that. And I guess, I haven't got, like, the most full sense of that yet. But, like, it's definitely got better in terms of I've kind of got a little bit quicker at manipulating the objects, the way you kind of, you hold down the shoulder button and use the D-pad to kind of align them properly, and, kind of the way it does kind of try and stick, to particular, you try to put together similar type of objects again and again. You get used to the kind of points that it wants to use as like junction points, for different, pieces of machinery, for instance, and you get the hang of it. It gets quicker, and that helps. Because at first, it was kind of taking me some time, and I guess it's inevitable when you're doing stuff that's like this, where you're kind of putting together multiple things and whatnot. But I guess the biggest kind of fear I had about that is kind of where you'd get this issue, like say in a shrine, for instance, but it could be in the overworld as well. Whereas, okay, I want to try something. I want to try a solution to a puzzle, and it's like, okay, let's build this thing and try that. Oh, it didn't work. All right, let me try and build this slightly different version of that again. And it's just going to like bog everything down. Like when you have an idea and it's like, I want to test whether this idea works within the constraints of the game, the physics and, the design of the puzzle. You want as few kind of frictions between you and that testing process as possible, really. And building stuff is a bit of a friction there. But I haven't found it to be too kind of problematic to this point anyway. I guess, maybe there's more advanced shrines waiting for me or, stuff like that. But at this point, it's just kind of like, it's not too long before it's like, okay, let's test out an idea. And it's, oh, well, it did work. You could like, the way you can kind of, just like kind of pluck something off what you've built and then reattach it somewhere else. It doesn't take too long. Although I'm not in love with the whole like shake the right stick to do it thing.
Yeah.
Like, cause it's a little weird.
Sometimes that's like moving the thing about in a way you don't really want when it's like, could be quite a delicate situation. Like, why not just have it be click the right stick? I know click the right stick does something else in a different context, but moving the right stick does something else in a different context. Like clicking it is just a discrete action rather than
why not just a button?
Well, yeah, a button would be fine as well. I get this idea of like, oh well, it's like you're like wiggling it off, kind of thing. But which is fine. You could still have that, but just give us the option to also like click it and be done with it without the play acting.
Yeah, like right. I definitely had situations where I'm doing something very tenuous, and I need to disconnect this piece. Oh shit! Mm-hmm. It's like, okay, don't move that much, and then some fucking Korok falls off. I'm like, oh god damn it!
Yeah. Now the one thing I will say though is moving pieces around does make the Switch show its age. Really drops that frame rate, and I'm like, ugh. There's really a couple that frame rate when you pick something up and you're carrying it around in the air, every once in a while when you turn, it's just like chug 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 comes back again.
Yeah, I'd say like, in the main, like I've been quite pleased with how it seems to perform in terms of like the resolution, the draw distance, the frame rate. It looks great. Like, it seems pretty solid, and I think I don't know. Some of this is again, it's like I've not played Breath of the Wild in a good long while, and now I'm playing on the OLED Switch, so I think some of it looking, maybe looking a little bit better or impressing me is just related to that. It's a bigger screen, it's a better screen, but I am pleased with how it looks. But yeah, if you get into like a really kind of built up area, or if you're activating, especially if you're activating one of those powers in that more kind of built up area, then you'll see it. But usually not like a huge problem, because like obviously most of the time when you build this stuff, it's all very gradual. It's all very, you're not kind of you're not worried about a rapid response type of thing in that scenario. But it's not very sightly, I suppose.
There are some where you do need to be more responsive though, and those are very difficult. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, just I was kind of shocked by how much I was struggling initially, just with the combat. Like my first I couldn't figure out the they kind of pit you against one pretty early on in the tutorial area, and I tried to figure out first of all like it took me a while to understand that you have to hold down the R button and then press up on the D-pad if you want to take something, if you want to change what you're going to throw.
Right, yeah.
And I did the opposite, and I was like, well, I'm pressing up, I'm pressing R, and it's not throwing anything. Like, what am I doing wrong? But then, like, I tried the bomb that was helpfully placed before the like, thinking, like, well, it's going to swallow it. I never managed to, well, when I throw the bomb, it would just blow up. So, like, the like didn't have time to go and grab it. So, I don't know. Like, I was like, what am I... I feel like this game is trying to teach me stuff, and I'm too dumb to pick it up.
That's what I was saying. I'm like, that's the thing. It's kind of when I bounced off it was when I was like, does this everything have to be a teaching moment? I mean, my God.
Right.
I'm not like, can you just give me something here? Because I got like trapped in that royal passage under the castle, and I was just getting my ass handed to me, and I'm just like, my God. And then, of course, I go all the way through that. I spend like an hour in there, fighting through tooth and nail. And you know how one of the things it says is like, okay, go up to the top of the guardhouse and talk to the captain or whatever at the start?
Yeah.
Well, I didn't even see him. And so I go through the dining area and go down underneath and go through that whole thing and spend an hour, and I get to what I think is the end. And so I finally open up the gate in that one area, where the, I think it's one of the monsters, is behind the leaves underneath the stairwell. And you shoot your arrow and you burn the leaves off and it comes out, and then it kind of runs up. And anyways, I opened that gate and I come right back to where I started. And I was like, so I really did just have to climb up the wall and literally climb up to the top of the guardhouse to talk to the captain. That's cool. But there's an NPC there who kind of confuses you, and he says, oh yeah, like, you don't really have to worry about that kind of thing. And so I was like, okay, well, I just have to like go into this guardhouse and obviously just go down the stairs. And
it's one of the perils of the relative openness of this design paradigm that they came upon with Breath of the Wild, is that like I talked about this with playing Metroid Prime, and that whole thing of like the way that you've got that long path underwater that you can take to the energy tank that's just a dead end. And, there's the reason why that kind of, confounded you is because, like, in a Metroid game or like in older Zelda games, there's a feeling of like, well, they wouldn't let you do this, right?
Yeah.
If this made sense, they wouldn't let you do it. And that is always like a kind of like guardrail. It's a conversation you're almost having in your head with the designers. Like, okay, this is like, no. If I'm trying something that's too convoluted, that's too, kind of layers upon layers, there's no way that's what they would intend. So let's just rule that out right now. Whereas in Breath of the Wild, it's like, well, maybe it's what they intended, maybe it's not, but it might work regardless. So it's a lot harder for you to say, nah, I'm doing something. This is not what was intended, so let's just dial that back. Because, the guardrails that you kind of imagine, which may or may not actually be in place, but a lot of the time they are, when you played an old Zelda game, a Metroid game, well, they're just not there anymore. So you can... James has talked about it, John there, myself, like, you can run yourself into these things that is like, this isn't really what they wanted. And maybe it's not even to some extent what you wanted, but you've ended up taking yourself down these roads because you misinterpreted something about the sailcloth, or you misinterpreted a line of dialogue.
Why is this game so hard? Oh, well, because I made it hard.
Again, there's still enough there that you could probably, somewhere along the line, I went astray because this can't surely be like what they were particularly kind of imagining. But it's like almost at a certain point, you kind of want to just see it through. Like, this is the point, right? Like, this is what people wanted. They wanted it to stop.
This has to mean something.
They wanted it to stop being so linear. They wanted it to stop being so kind of, railroaded. So, let's try and enjoy that on some level. And sometimes it is, really enjoyable. And I think it can be really enjoyable because, like that it didn't have to be this way, but it can also lead to a lot of, red herrings, kind of, some unpleasant stuff that doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel balanced, or it doesn't feel carefully created, because it's not, because you went off and did something. But, that's the trade-off. That's the way this is. And I'm sure, there's, especially some long-time fans that kind of miss feeling like you've got that kind of more solid set of expectations to work off. But equally, with this commercial performance, I mean, it's over, isn't it? Let's face it, it's over. Yeah. This is Zelda forever, or until the sales dry up.
Yes.
John going, this has to mean something. Are you saying that we're all Richard Dreyfuss and Close Encounters of the Third Kind making mountains out of our mashed potatoes? We just don't know why we're doing it.
I'm just thinking John Locke shouting at the hats, tell me what to do! Tell me what you want me to do!
But yeah, and like once I was off the tutorial, and like I was still in the mindset that, this game is still tutorializing to me. And so on my way to the Lookout Landing, there was a big wooden bridge, and I saw my first depot of like building materials that's left a little bit all over the place by these carpenters. But I didn't know what that was. I was like, well, this must be a tutorial. It must be advantageous for me to build a cart to go past this this bridge. And so I built the cart, and then it's like, well, it doesn't move on its own, and I can't even push it to get it started. So I put one of my personal fans like from my inventory, and then I crossed the bridge with that, and I'm like, well, that was fucking pointless. and I'm just like struggling against all the enemies, and I'm like, am I gonna have to build like a cart with like knives sticking out of it to get through anything here?
You wouldn't be the first person.
Yeah, but anyway, so just like complete confusion. So, but now I think I've got more of a grasp of what the game expects from me. So hopefully I can get anywhere. And of course, like, yeah, getting the paraglider is going to help a lot. I think that, despite the fact that they let you explore wherever you want and they don't force you on the path to follow the story, it's probably advantageous to not wait too long before going there. So that's going to be my tactic.
Yeah, if I had known that there was there, I would have gone there. But
yeah, that's the thing. It does. There's trade-offs with that kind of stuff. Like, so maybe you do feel like I kind of feel like I probably ended up wasting some time, because I think it probably, if I'd done some of the more core stuff more quickly, it would have made some of the other things I've already done easier, quicker, all that kind of thing. But it's part of the experience. It's part of, like I said, that renewing the sense of discovery, that it isn't just all breadcrumbed for you assiduously the way it used to be.
Everybody's progression in Breath of the Wild of their Link was a unique story, and everybody's in this will be the same. And that's kind of neat that they've built this. We haven't even talked about all the utility that they've just decided to fucking put Banjo-Kazooie nuts and bolts in this game, and it seems to work just fine. But like, everybody's solution to the problems people encounter, the time they encounter them, how they react to them, how they build around them, how they built their Link, how they built what weapons they choose to use, how they decide to navigate the world. Like, all of that is going to be different person to person. And I talked about it with Breath of the Wild. I didn't know Lurelane Village was there for hours. There, and you look at like the Trail of the Hero thing, which I wish just had at the start. I had apparently flown over it a bunch of times before I ever went there, because I wasn't looking down. I was looking ahead, and it's in a valley. It's everybody's path is their own, and that kind of makes these two games so distinct from any previous Zelda game, where everybody's path is the path.
Yeah, I just want to say quickly, I actually turned on the Pro HUD mode. where it kind of gets rid of the most of the HUD, actually.
Mm-hmm. Oh.
And it might actually make the game a little bit easier to, like, it makes it easier for me, I think, to notice what's around me.
Huh.
So...
I might try that later.
Okay, so I'm off social media now, but I decided, well, I still need to know what gamers are doing in Tears of the Kingdom, so I went to Kotaku, and so they've got plenty of articles about the game of the moment. But players are playing with a Pro HUD. No, like, there was an opinion piece about how, like, it makes the game better, and they might actually have been right, because you don't need the HUD as much as you might think you do. When you get hit, you do get an indication, like you see your hearts for a little bit, so, you just need to remember where you're at. And when it's cold, Link shivers. There's like all sorts of indicators that you can keep an eye on without even having the HUD on. You're missing the mini-map, but actually that might be a good thing. In my opinion, it forces you to either look what's around you or to look at your big map by pressing the minus button. And the one thing that you might be missing is the noise indicator if you're trying to stealth your way around. But then again, like you kind of know when you're being stealthy or not. Like there's like this whole trick about how like you're trying to be stealthy, just don't wear pants. That reduces your noise considerably. And so I've just been doing that, it's stalking bunnies pantsless in the game. So,
it all comes full circle, I guess.
Yep. No one isolate this sound. Please.
I did want to say I probably put 30 to 40 hours into the game at this point, like a lot of time.
Mm-hmm.
And I've got multiple collectibles. I have no idea what the fuck they even do. There's some, I've got like 17 of them, and I'm like, what are you for? You're obviously significant because I get them so rarely. And usually I had to do something pretty involved, but I have no idea what to even do with you. Like, what is your reason? Why are you here? And I find that just like immensely fascinating that I've got these things that I've been collecting, and I had to do something fairly hard to get them, and now what? And like I'll find it eventually. Like, I'm gonna scour this game, but in the meantime, I just keep every few hours I find another one. It's like, oh, there's another one. Add it to the mystery pile, and we'll just keep rolling.
Yeah, the game better start dishing out recipes faster than it's been so far, because I'm not the kind of person who's going to try something just to see if it works, usually.
I've gotten a few, but a lot of the ones I have are ones that I just found, written out somewhere. They weren't like somebody gave it to me.
Right.
It's like, I don't even know how to describe it. This game is really good. And it's massive, and there's so much in it, and it's so dense, and it's even bigger than the previous game, but yet it feels more dense than the previous game. And there's always something happening. You roll into a barn, whatever they call those, the horse camps.
The stables.
Yeah, and there's like 9 things going on in there. And like, oh, well, okay, this person's giving me a hint. I can tell because there's red text in it. This person's got a quest for me. This fucking bird wants to talk about some shit. Like, there's just stuff happening everywhere. Like, okay, let me just deal with this. And then I'll just try to compartmentalize these things in my brain and come back to them when it's time. But 20 minutes down the road, hey, there's a cave. I wonder what's in there. And everything I've tried to save is gone. Now there's the only thing that exists is what's in that cave. This is a dangerous game to get like really caught up in, because I suspect you could play this game for hundreds of hours and not see everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you'll just like try climbing stuff. Like, let's just see what I can do here.
Yeah. And it's not always clear if you have seen something, so you get in there and investigate. Like, no, I've seen this. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this is a hell of a time sink. It rained super hard most of this weekend, or most of last weekend. So I just kind of hung out on the couch. I've drained the Switch controller 2.5 times since this game came out. And that thing lasts forever. So, yeah. All right. Is that good for Zelda for today?
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think we'll obviously have a lot more to talk about later. We're going to do one email. And then we're going to call it for the episode. So emails, they go to rfn@nintendoworldreport.com. There's no chat GPT bots here. But this email comes from Jacob in Plainview, Nebraska, who writes, Dear RFN friends. RFN friends. Okay. Yeah, that was like weirdly hard to say for a second. The day you are probably recording this, May 18th, which it is for 19 more minutes for me, will be my 31st birthday, which continues my kind of sort of tradition of emailing in every May. I'm the poor soul who suggested you play 20 questions a few years ago, and the poorer soul who made a fool of myself with my Mario Party email a while back. Whoops. I need to go back and figure out which Mario Party email that was.
We get so many.
We get more than I'd like.
Yeah, I know. More than healthy, I think.
Well, that would be 0. When I last emailed, I was beginning an unfortunate dark part of my life where I was in an extremely poor state of mental health. Through various efforts, such as therapy, meditation, and self-reflection, I have begun to improve, though more work remains. The launch of Tears of the Kingdom, ironically right around my birthday, has come as a welcome beacon in a roller coaster, upside down and sideways phase of my life. Tears of the Kingdom is completely blowing my mind. As much as I love Breath of the Wild, it was never my favorite Zelda. So far, through about 15 hours, Tears has uplifted my soul and plastered myriad genuine smiles on my face, something that's been very rare to occur in the last 18 months. I was very excited to play Zelda, which is my favorite series, but I was not expecting the transformative effect it would have on me. Do video games play a role in your mental upkeep? Is it harder or easier to motivate yourself to play games when you're feeling down? Is there a game you go to when you need a pick-me-up? To all of you on the show, and to all the listeners in the RFN sphere, if you're going through a tough time, I send you my love. You are not alone. P.S. If you decide to read this on the show, could you give me a huge birthday present and say hi to my boyfriend and fiancé, Oliver? He lives in China, and we're in the process of doing the fiancé visa. The Switch is his first game console ever, and I look forward to sharing my love of Nintendo with him for many years to come. I think we can do that. Hi, Oliver.
Hey.
And congratulations to both of you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, congratulations.
So, first off, this is like oddly serious for us, but yeah, I mean, this is stuff that I know I've dealt with. Like I've had periods of my life that were not super great. And some of that isn't necessarily, and this is just the reality of dealing with things like depression. It's not even necessarily because of things that were happening. Sometimes it's just the brain decides this is where we're going to be right now. And, you know, there's options, both therapeutic and clinical and medical, that can help deal with that kind of stuff. And I've, at some point in my life, gone through all 3 of those. And it is important to deal with those things as best you can. It's, you know, there's not like a silver bullet solution, obviously, but to his question, yeah, I mean, I could say personally, the answer is yeah, video games play a role in helping de-stress and helping me distract from other stuff. But it to his other part, I mean, you could tell that he's been dealing with this because he nails it. Does it make it harder or easier? The answer is yes. Like, when you're feeling really depressed, it's hard to do anything.
Yeah. I can't say that a game has ever pulled me out of a depressive state. If anything, I'll be too depressed to play games, which is when I know it's kind of like, all right, this is where it kind of draws the line for me.
Yeah.
So in that way, it helps because, you know, it lets me know that if I don't even feel like doing something that I enjoy so much, then something is wrong and I need to take action on that.
Yeah, like that's one of the key symptoms of depression is that you're not enjoying things that you normally would.
Yep.
Like that's a big red flag. If you're going through that, that's something you need to pay attention to. Like that's your brain telling you, like, I have decided to disable the pleasure centers.
Mm-hmm.
You should look into this. You know, for me personally, I had and I've talked about this one on the show. Like, there was a period where I was still fairly young. There was a very serious medical crisis happening in my family. People were handling it very poorly, like extremely poorly. My parents and my aunts and uncles are definitely further along in their life journeys at this point and would have definitely handled it better than they handled at the time. But it was new to them. You know, a parent having a serious medical condition or a serious medical incident, you know, as they get older, there's a first time for that. And you handle it how you handle it. And it wasn't great. And so there was a lot of like bad situations around, and just having WarioWare, which I just gotten like 2 days before this shit went down, it didn't, like, to John's point, it doesn't like necessarily pull you out of depression, but it alleviates the symptoms for a while. It lets you have something else to focus on. It gave me the opportunity to engage in something very stupid in a very serious situation, to just get those, like, the good brain chemicals going for a little bit. Even if it was just like a reprieve, a partial reprieve, just an alleviation. It was something. You know, but even Xenoblade was great for that. It was just something to lock in on and just deal, like, just grind through it. Yeah, I don't know. But what about y'all?
Well, I think I have to be personally more cautious of games having a negative effect on me. Like, the escapism is great, but probably I need less escapism and more like facing reality in a lot of situations. So yeah, I have to be worried about that. But in terms of like good, positive mental effects that video games might have had, like, I think I've already told that story, but when I was doing an internship in Ottawa, in my program, like 20 years ago now, I was living in, just across the border in Hull, and I didn't have a car, and I was very kind of isolated. Like, there were other people living in the house that I was renting a room in, but and they were nice enough, but I didn't make friends, really.
They weren't roommates; they were cohabitators, basically.
Yeah, basically. And so it was good to have like a GameCube and Metroid Prime, but especially like Animal Crossing and Wind Waker, like all those, like, both those games are so chill that, it was just, it was nice to just like sail around or to, pick up fruit, sell them to villagers or whatever I was doing. So yeah, like, it was kind of a balm when, in those harsh, Ottawa winters, when it was just like me in my room and the mushroom that was growing under my bed. It felt like dark times, but the video games eased the pain a little bit. I did get a kind of a discount on my room after that mushroom was discovered, by the way, but it was huge. It was just like, and so full, so bloated, so full of water from the poorly, what do you call that? Anyway, like the water was seeping through from the shower.
Across no.
Just on the other side of the wall. It was bad.
That's not great.
I should have moved out of there, but I was a student, What did I know about mold and
dying?
Spores? Yeah, exactly.
I mean, how big was this mushroom? I'm sorry, I have to digress.
I like
here.
that we're off the topic now. We're just talking about how big this mushroom is.
Yeah,
no,
I want to know.
How big is your mushroom, Guillaume? Yes, let's do it.
Oh boy,
I'm not going to answer that question, but the mushroom, it was surprisingly wide.
Mm-hmm.
Not especially like it was just.
And we have our clip for the episode, so we're good there.
Well, I don't even know. Like, it was like, almost like one of those smaller records.
Yeah.
Oh, the 45s.
I guess, yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe slightly smaller than that.
Don't mind me. I'm just Google image searching for no particular reason right now. It's fine.
Yeah, so it was about the size of a small plate then.
WikiHow,
the smallest
giant
type of
mushroom.
plate. Yeah.
Yeah, like bigger than the burger,
Bigger than a bird.
Well, you know.
Yeah.
But it looked like
but for something to be under your bed, that is huge.
Yeah, like the
like
fact
indoors. Like that's something you would see out in the forest.
Right. And like, you know, I went like to kind of grab it with a good lord, paper towel, and it just it was insubstantial. Like, as I said, like it was mostly water.
Mm-hmm.
It's something like, and like the feeling, the sensation is gonna stay. Like I'm gonna die, and I'm gonna still remember that fucking mushroom.
I love it. The mushroom under the bed, man. That's great.
What you're describing is like something out of a spirit camera game, like
or just a dream, a nightmare, isn't it? You know what I mean? Like this thing that's inexplicably under your bed, and then it just kind of like collapses in your hand. Like this is real dream territory.
So,
oh man!
So what this teaches you, James, is that in your darkest times, you just have to grab the mushroom.
Great.
Yes.
Under your bed.
Isn't that how Transformers the movie ends? Like Hot Rod just grabs this giant glowing mushroom and then Unicron explodes?
Probably. That sounds about right. If it was the Transformers cinematic experience movies, though, it would just be lots of loud.
You just rotate around the mushroom and it would be made of metal and
and it would make horrible grinding sounds. Just oh, it's like it's in my head.
No, so anyway, for my part, you know, I've been depressed pretty much my entire adult life, most of the years running up to that as well. So and what you find with that is very much what you've already said, is that it gradually takes away things you enjoy. That's just what happens. You know, when you think of things like when I was younger, I liked to draw. I wasn't any good at it, but I liked doing it. And then eventually you just stop liking it because you stop doing a lot of things. But, games is one of the things that has mostly survived. I mean, it's definitely, some of it's just age, I suppose, but I think it changes what sort of things you most value out of games, like what you kind of enjoy or like seek out the most. I've kind of touched on this a little bit with certain games in the past few years, kind of like your Origami Kings and the Bayonetta Origins game, like something just being very kind of pleasant is more important to me now, because I find that that's just something I appreciate more, whereas something in the old days that I might have got more out of because it was like really, really challenging, you kind of you shoot 'em ups and your Ghouls and Ghosts type experiences. Like, it's just probably not gonna work these days. You're more easily frustrated. You're probably just physically not as good at that sort of thing that you used to be. So there's that dimension to it, but also I think the mental health aspect plays a role, because you just I don't need something that's going to frustrate me and feel like I'm wasting my time. So even if it doesn't, wholesale just like kill an interest, it will affect it. Certainly I don't have many left at this point, it's true, but that does make it, you lean on it more than you used to, even if in some ways, even if you lean on it in a somewhat different way. For me, the biggest thing, the biggest value that it has, I think, relative to other media, is that one of my biggest problems is intrusive negative thoughts, things that you coming into your brain, apropos of nothing, right? It's not necessarily a response to a difficult situation or anything, just there, unbidden, just things, telling you how worthless you are, how ineffectual you are, whatever. And the best way I have, outside of, the things we've talked about, which obviously are very important in terms of, be it medication, therapy, and so on, is, to give my brain something else to think about. That's the best thing I've got, right? It's just like, well, let's just feed it something to occupy it more, whereas I think if you're watching, if you're consuming media in a passive way with films, for instance, TV, music, it has more room to run in that regard. Games, because it's active, and especially, sometimes it might not be something that's terribly complicated, but I think this is where I find value something like Picross, where it's like it's this thing, it's this like routine that you can just feed your brain to go and worry about that. And it kind of, it helps. It definitely, diminishes that to some extent. And so, other games, like Zelda, definitely at the moment, like with the shrines and stuff, like I think that stuff works pretty well. And you get that kind of loop of like, you find something, you have your brain has a puzzle to solve, and then you get that kind of little, reward of like, you did it. There you go. You kind of, that's pretty effective. But certainly even things that are, less involved, but they have that kind of pleasant aesthetic quality to them. There's just something that's kind of soothing, which could be the case in like Xenoblade or the aforementioned like Paper Mario and all that. It could do it in different ways, different aesthetics, but anything like that, I think, is something I really kind of value at this stage, because the more time goes on, the less stuff seems to kind of, matter enough that it is enough of a distraction anymore. You know what I mean? It's just like, when you're a child, somebody tells you something matters and you believe them with absolutely no experience or, anything to back it up. It's just, well, these other people think is, and it's just, you all of a sudden becomes the biggest thing in the world to you for no reason at all, and then when you get, and this is something I think probably happens to everybody as they get older, but certainly if you have certain kinds of mental health problems, it's much more so. It's just like, it's a miracle if you can emotionally invest in anything to any degree. So whenever you can, it's something that, is really precious in that way. And for me, fortunately, games at least still has that place, even if it's definitely, a bit different than it used to be decades ago.
Yeah, I think sports for me fills that too.
Oh yeah,
it has that kind of purpose, right? Just something to distract me.
It definitely works on that level for me. I'm not ashamed to say it. In some of the fucking darkest days of the pandemic, it's just like, as dumb as it is, there's just that strain of thought to me when you get those intrusive thoughts of just like, this is fucked. Everything's fucked. Yeah. This is, this, as dumb as it is, it was something to hold on to. It's like, you have waited your entire adult life to see your team actually be good. Come on, let's fucking see it.
Yeah, exactly.
Help keep you going. It's dumb. Mm-hmm. It's objectively fucking moronic.
Yeah.
But it worked to a degree.
And it doesn't stop either. It keeps going. There's always something to be interested in. There's always something silly. There's always some stupid thing I can text James about where I'm just like, did you see this shit? Did you see this?
It's usually the dumbest shit in the world.
Oh, yeah.
But like, I mean, you bring up a good point. Like, it was, my introversion sort of helped me during the really, really early days of the pandemic, where it's like, well, I'm naturally introverted, so whatever. Like, I'm at home. It sucks that this thing is happening to society, but it doesn't particularly suck for me in a meaningful way at this moment. But once MLB unfucked themselves, which they were very insistent on, well, MLB and the Players Association couldn't agree on how to be the only sport on television and instead waited till they wouldn't be. Good job. Like, I got to enjoy a short, fun baseball season where the Reds made the playoffs, and then nobody knows what happens after that. Nobody remembers. It was weird. It was like, I think there was an alien involved. I don't know. But it, like, that was just something to have. It was like a weird slice of normalcy, even when the stadium was empty and there were cardboard cutouts of assholes who paid $100 to be a cardboard cutout. It was,
is that why there was a Governor Cuomo cardboard cutout at the Salem Field in Buffalo when the Blue Jays had to use it?
That would be, that would have been accurate based on where things went that way. Boy, that was a different time, wasn't it?
Yep.
Yeah, so like it's there are things and video games can be one of them, but yeah, definitely there are times where it makes it harder to play games. It makes it harder to do anything. It makes me want to just like lay there and passively consume content sometimes. It's it's all about understanding what those signals mean to you. And sometimes it's like, hey, I'm not up to playing video games today, so I'm just not gonna. And that's okay. I will say Tears of the Kingdom has crushed that emotion for the time being, which I'm very happy about. So yeah, I mean, I think the most important thing here is like, if you're feeling like, this kind of weird oppressive darkness that you can't quite put your finger on, don't quite understand what the source is, you should probably talk to somebody. Like it's a good thing to do. I don't have to do that anymore because I've basically gone through that, but I still have all the strategies and stuff that I picked up from doing that, and it helps. Sometimes. Not all the time. And that's just kind of the way it is. And it's all about trying to decrease the valleys more than it is about like trying to find more peaks, I guess is the best way of putting it. Just try to keep it level. And, having other hobbies, doing this show helps sometimes. Like, it's like, hey, I've got a thing to deal with. I get to yell at John for 2 hours. That's great.
That has to be therapeutic.
I get to say things to John that I normally would want to say to other people. And I can't because professional obligations won't let me go like you blithering moron.
Mm-hmm.
But John, I can say that all day. He just takes it.
That I do. I take it.
It's great. Mm-hmm. So find yourself a John Lindemann.
Find yourself a John Lindemann.
That's my advice to you. And on that, Greg, what's our music to end the show this week?
Well, we had a request in from someone choosing to identify as Chainsaw Bill.
Oh no!
So, there is that, but they were coming in with the request now because it's like, okay, well, we did Breath of the Wild music 2 weeks ago, in the ramp up to the Tears of the Kingdom launch. We did Wind Waker music obviously last week, and not 6 episodes before that. So it's like, okay, well, we can't, as much as Zelda is everything right now, I don't know that we can actually go Zelda again this week. So we probably will use something that's new from Tears of the Kingdom. It does have, a lot of reprises from the Breath of the Wild soundtrack, as you might imagine. But there's obviously new stuff in there, and I'm sure we'll use some at some point, but it's like, it's not quite right. I think, this density of Zelda closing music. So this week I wanted something that was different, but, maybe at least a little bit adjacent. And then, looking at Chainsaw Bill's request, I thought, yeah, this one works because it's actually from Portal 2, which certainly, the shrines in Breath of the Wild and in Tears of the Kingdom, they have a portal test chamber sort of quality to them. Mm-hmm. Of course, the biggest distinction is that the portal test chambers, at least like the kind of core ones in the single player kind of campaign, are, linear, right? So they get to iterate on each other in their design. Whereas with the shrines, they don't know what order you're finding them in, so, a lot of them, you might have little minor iterations within a single shrine, but, they can't kind of, string things together the way that Portal does. But still, is a lot of overlap there, and certainly I'm a big fan of both the Portal games. And this request is actually from Portal 2. I believe it's like the credit song for the co-op campaign, Robots FTW. So I played some of Portal 2 co-op back when it was on PS3, courtesy of the sort of cross-play thing that they had there with Steam. If you remember that. But I don't think I saw the credits, so this song was kind of new to me. But yeah, it's basically very much synthetic triumphalism, I suppose you might describe it as. But it is very fun.
Cool. All right. Well, on that, it's time to go. Bye, everybody.
Later.
Bye.
Bye-bye.